is up, Nerfers? Welcome back to the show. We are keeping it kind of consistent at this point. Here we are back again to talk about the recent happenings in the media world, mostly talking about shows. We got a little bit of news in here as well, but yeah, that's about it. Been kind of slow going, We've got all right, so we're going to talk a little bit about MoonKnight episode 1. There's going to be some spoilers in there, but we'll do spoiler free for the most part. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys just yet. It did just kind of come out. We've also got some talk about the Halo series that is streaming on Paramount Plus right now. We've got some unfortunate news around Bruce Willis, and we're going to talk about our favorite Bruce Mill. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing. I finally registered my car. That was a process. I got up early. I got like all the paperwork, and I get to the DMV, and I walk in, and I'm just bracing myself. I'm like, this is gonna suck. This is gonna suck. I walk in,
$4 billion fucking dollars.
Yeah, well, besides the cost, just the people, it's the DMV. It always sucks. It's always like this long process, right? I walk in, there's literally no line. Like I'm able to walk straight up to the teller, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a good sign. This is a good sign. And I get up to there, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to register my new car. This is all the paperwork that they sent me in the mail on Friday. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. And she's like, oh, great. Congratulations. And I'm like, feeling really good. And then she looks through all the paperwork and she's like, there's a piece missing. And I'm like, what? They sent me the whole packet. This is all I need. And they're like, no, you need this other piece. And so then over the next hour, I am back and forth on the call with the dealership. Like, hey, I need this. They send me something. I go back up to her. No, this isn't what we need. We need something else. I go back over to the side. I call them again. By the time I get what she needs, I turn around and the lobby is full. So I have to either be the dick and try to scoot in. But her teller thing like isn't to the side. It's like clear over there. So I had to get in line and wait and wait. And it was like the lunch break, so everybody was coming, and it was loud and it was annoying, but I finally got it done. So that was my little stress outing this morning. Yay, Mondays.
God, you get to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I went, they just gouged me for like $600. Well,
buddy, I wish it was $600
because I had to do two vehicles. I have a motorcycle and a car that I had to do. So yeah, they slapped me with that shit pretty hard.
They get you for everything now, like
especially in the state. Nebraska gets you for fucking everything.
They have an EV tax. If you have an EV car, it's on top of your regular tax. If you want to do the back plate only, they have a annual fee to only do the back plate.
Yeah, $50.
And on top of that, and I'm like, all right, that's fine. But then they're like, also, you can't renew your registration online. You have to come in. So it's like, we're not only going to charge you more, we're going to punish you every year and make you come in person to keep your back plate. So I'm like, great, thanks for that so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, they gotta give you that stupid little sticker that they're gonna make you stick in the front of the car because you totally need a sticker when it says on your registration that you did it.
I know. Like I got the EV. I got the EV, so I no longer need the little oil change reminder sticker, but I have another sticker to put in its place.
I mean, where would you how lost would you be if you didn't have something in your windshield to distract you?
Right. Oh gosh, yeah. Anyway, we have some stuff to talk about. We've got some shows to review. We got some other stuff, but I have a couple lightning rounds to knock off the top first.
Yes. So. We had a couple we wanted to squeeze in there.
So let's do that. Let's pop over to the first one, which is congratulations to Bo Burnham for winning a Grammy.
Yeah, it's an obscure Grammy for sure, but yeah, congrats. Like, God, it's kind of like the I guess the official reward was song written for visual media. Best song written for visual media. So he got the Grammy for that, for his video for his track All Eyes on Me as a part of his special Inside. which he very brilliantly released not only on Spotify, but he released individual videos out on YouTube. And I think he's still got a few more that he could end up doing. But each one of them got millions of hits, billions or like millions of views, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, we already did a review on his special Inside, which you can watch on Netflix. And it's spectacular. I mean, there's a lot of introspective stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff that's going to kind of shine sort of that light on the ugly side of not only pandemic living, but kind of living with the level of depression that an artist at any caliber really tends to deal with. And I don't think that Bo necessarily, I mean, this is, I mean, it's been a while because I believe that it came out in, well, I guess this is technically the 2021 Grammy. So it is, I always forget.
Yeah, it came out early last year.
Yeah, it was very early 2021. He wrote the entire thing while he was still in lockdown. He put a lot of effort into this thing, and I mean, it's great that he got some recognition for it, but I also don't think that he really kind of needed that validation from that organization. And allegedly, he was sitting around at home when he got it. So,
yeah, this picture is from the Emmys, which he did attend, and he won 3 Emmys for the special. So, sadly, he didn't win comedy album, and I'm sure that's because of a number of things. One, it's not necessarily stand up. It's it's more his brand of kind of skit type stuff, and it also I think a lot of people could argue that it might not have been comedy. It might have been more of a drama.
It'd be a little bit of a stretch to call Inside a straight up comedy. There's definitely some element. There's far more elements there of like surrealistic, almost documentary style, and then a lot of skits. But no, big props. Like
big props indeed.
He took over a Grammy, and that was like the only Grammy that I cared about. I was reading through the Grammy winners. I was just like,
I haven't even done that.
I don't know who this fucking person is. I don't know who this fucking person is. I don't know who any of these songs are. A lot of it looked like hip hop names. I was just like, I don't care. Oh, Bo Burnham. That was about the end of it.
I'm waiting to see what he does next. I'm just looking at. Looks like he's directing a TV special this year for Gerard Carmichael. Oh, is that the guy that was just on SNL? That is the guy that was just on SNL. Oh, okay. So he directed somebody's. It either has or hasn't come out yet, but the comedy special for Gerard Carmichael. And other than that, he doesn't have anything, at least on IMDb, that he's slated to be doing anytime soon. But I really liked 8th Grade. I liked his performance in Promising Young Woman. I'd be excited to see what he does next. So, and if he goes on tour again and he comes anywhere in the vicinity of the Midwest, I'm going to try my best to be there. So, yeah. Congrats, Bo Burnham.
Well done, sir.
Moving forward, and this will be brief, but the update since we last talked on this is that Will Smith has resigned from the Academy Awards.
Oh, really?
So, yes, he has officially resigned.
There's something that you have to resign from.
Yeah. Well, you could be fired from
or you have to join from. That's okay.
Yeah. So he released a long statement, and I won't get into it. You can go out there and read it. But he apologized to Chris. He apologized to everybody, and said that it was a mistake. So what does this mean for him? He's going to keep his Oscar. Obviously, he can still be invited to future ceremonies. He can still be nominated for future awards. He can no longer be a voting member. However, this isn't the end of it. That's just the result of him resigning. There is a current disciplinary thing going on right now, and it is supposed to be wrapped up by the 18th, which is when the board of directors meets again for the Academy Awards. So they are determining what his punishment will be. And in his statement, he said he is willing to accept whatever punishment I'll just read a little bit. They do have a little bit of his statement. It says, "My
They're
actions." What's that? Go ahead.
they're gonna meet. They're gonna get their little board meeting together. They're gonna talk to Will like in person and be like, "Hey, bro, man, the fucking slap got us more ratings than anything has in years. You're still out, but yeah, you can keep the gold dick award that we gave you. You can fucking like you can come back and party with us next time, but we're gonna let it cool down."
I'm sure he's going to be suspended for a few years.
And to what does that matter to him? Honestly, like, is it
Well,
really
I mean, he
have any impact whatsoever?
he had 3 major projects in the works that have all been shut down. So he lost his next 3 jobs. So that is something, at least currently, immediately. But within his statement, he said, "My actions at the 94th Academy Awards presentation were shocking, painful, and inexcusable. The list of those I have hurt is long and includes Chris, his family, many of my dear friends and loved ones, all those in attendance, and the global audiences. I am heartbroken, and I want to put the focus back on those who deserve attention for their achievements and allow the Academy to get back to the work it does to support creativity and artistry in film." So we'll find out whatever it is down the road, but yeah, it'll blow over time. I think everybody's just done with it. Questlove put out a tweet that was like, when this came out, he was like, "Good, can we stop talking about this now?" I think a lot of people are to that point. So
I was over it pretty quick immediately because like I didn't like it didn't really matter what they did. Like they aren't like like his legacy isn't going to be tarnished because he didn't fuck anybody, like, or he didn't rape anybody. Like he walked up there and he slapped Chris Rock. He made Chris Rock's career explode, and he did absolutely nothing to his. He did absolutely nothing to his personal fortune. He's gonna like, yeah, he lost out on some projects. He's got enough money to never have to work ever again. Like with or without those projects, he's set for life. I mean, he'd probably make a pretty handsome helping off of just the fucking Fresh Prince residuals. Like,
I'm sure, but this does affect his legacy a bit, because once you get your Oscar, then it's the legacy. First, it's the award, then it's the legacy after that. Like there was even a biopic in the works for him at this point, and he's not young.
It'll still happen. I'm calling it now. It'll still happen.
I'm sure it will.
It's going to be delayed a few years,
but currently been shut down. Yeah. Bad Boys 4 has been shut down, and I am not sad for that, because Bad Boys 3 sucked.
We ain't missing out on anything.
And Netflix had a film called Fast and Loose that they shut down. So I'm sure it'll come back, and I'm sure a lot of those shutdowns are pending whatever the disciplinary thing is. I'm sure the studios aren't going to invest in money if, he's not allowed to be at the Oscars for X amount of years, so that'll probably affect things. But anyway, that is the update on that, and we can move past it. One more thing. So Harrison Ford is coming out with a new Apple TV show, and I still need to. I've been wanting to
aren't they?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do like a video on Apple TV, because I just fucking love. I love Apple TV. I didn't think I would, but they have some quality shit over there right now. I'm watching this show called Severance that I've talked to you about a little bit. It is absolutely fantastic. It's like a mindfuck show that Ben Stiller is show running, and it stars the dude from Parks and Rec, Adam Scott, and it's fantastic. It's trippy, it's claustrophobic, it's depressing, and it's like empowering. Like the last couple episodes, I'm like, do it. Like if you've ever had like a moment where you wanted to stand up to your employers, this is like the super extreme version of that, but it encapsulates that feeling, and I love that. This has nothing to do with that, though, but Harrison Ford is about to star in a new series from Jason Segel, and apparently it's from the team that currently does Ted Lasso, and it is called Shrinking, and it follows a grieving therapist, Jason Segel, who starts to break the rules and tells his clients exactly what he thinks. Ignoring his training and ethics, he finds himself huge tumultuous changes to people's lives, including his own. It doesn't really say what Harrison Ford's role is going to be in that, but it's kind of cool seeing him being a part of a show and something different.
It'd be nice just to see him like keeping up, you know. It was like you think every time you think of Harrison Ford, you think of Han Solo or some like major like or Indiana Jones. And it's like honestly, it's nice to see that like he's still working because he's a fucking dynamite actor.
Yeah, he did that. He did that remake of The Call of the Wild with that fucking weird looking CGI like giant dog.
Yeah.
Like not only was it a CGI dog, but it was abnormally large. And I saw the trailers for that. I'm like, nope, you couldn't tie me down to watch that movie. So
I skipped out on that one.
yeah.
But he was in 2049. He was in Blade Runner again.
Yeah, that was
cool
a
to
few
jump
years
in
back.
there.
Yep.
Which honestly I needed because I watched the original Blade Runner. I was just like, this is fucking weird. like,
and 2049 has recently dropped on Netflix, which makes me want to watch it again.
Yeah, I gotta jump
movie.
in on it again.
But yeah, any new comedy series from the Ted Lasso crew has me excited because Ted Lasso is like a damn good show. Have you seen that show?
I have not.
Oh my gosh! If you want,
of course I haven't. Look who you're talking to.
If I give you a lot of shows that can be depressing and tense. If you need something
yes, you do.
that is like the most wholehearted fucking show you can ever see, it's that show. There's some depressing stuff in it because it's very real, but the guy is like 110 optimist where we're all sitting down in like the 40-50% optimist, and it's just the most wholesome fucking show you'll ever see. It's great. I love it so much. It's a good show. So it'll put a smile on your face if you need like a break from all the depressing shit I send your way. So
well, yeah, I've been watching Breaking Bad and fucking Halo and MoonKnight and none of these. It's like MoonKnight's got some happy shit in it, but yeah, it's been a bit of a cry. Been a bit of a dreary fest lately.
Speaking of, let's go into Halo a little bit. We've both seen the first episode, right? Just the first episode.
I'm.
Or have you seen the second one already?
I'm more than halfway through the second episode.
Okay.
I was gonna have it done. I was gonna have it done before we started. But you wanted to start early, so we're here. So here we are.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it on in the background. I was doing some editing, shit like that. But yeah, so far the show isn't wowing me.
Show isn't wowing anybody apparently.
Yeah, no. There's so like I have two different perspectives that I'm trying not to watch the show from. One of them is from having a connection to Halo as a game that I spent many a night staying up all night playing with friends, burning through legendary campaign, looking for skulls, playing the multiplayer, just nonstop, chucking controllers, breaking like I have a lot of gamers from our generation or from my generation of gaming revere Halo as like a true game changer. It revolutionized
the Xbox.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It put the Xbox on the map for sure. In a world where PlayStation and Nintendo were dominating, Xbox was coming in. We're like, all right, we're going to take a chance here because Microsoft was known for PCs. And they came in with this console, took a chance with Halo with Bungie at the time. It's now 343 Studios, and changed the game. Like this was the first person shooter for a long time. Call of Duty came in and made Halo take a seat, but Halo still had a very rich, like a rich place in my heart in my memory as a video gamer. And then just recently, not terribly recently, Halo Infinite releases, which is another campaign, but it was a free multiplayer, free to play multiplayer version of the game. It was available for PC, available on consoles, and it kind of reignited my love for Halo multiplayer because the multiplayer was so good. It was glorious. It really reminded me of the classic like, it really reminded me of my days playing Halo 2 multiplayer with a bunch of friends. Like, it was just massive in my time, especially in high school. So I've got a connection to this game, to the character of Master Chief, to the character of Cortana, to the character of well, I want to kind of hold the Covenant as a single character because they have such a big place in the games. Obviously, there's some sub characters in there that so far have been introduced, but not necessarily in the same vein. And then I've got another side of me that's trying to look at it that I'm trying not to look at it from, and it's from a like a science fiction fan point of view, where I'm just like comparing it to every other piece of science fiction media that I've ever seen. It was like, all right, like these guys are, because they're not trying something new. They're starting with a video game franchise with a very rich lore history, and science fiction, spacefaring, military, army, space guys is also not new. This is not a new premise. So they're coming from this from in my opinion, a very serious disadvantage, because you're going to have expectations from both sides. The gamers want you to be loyal to the subject matter, and the science fiction crowd wants to see new shit. Like, they want to see, it's like, okay, this is a genre, this is a very familiar genre. How are you going to keep our attention? And so far, they're not doing the greatest job of being loyal to the subject matter, and they're not doing a great job of showing me anything new in the science fiction world. So far, I'm pretty underwhelmed. It almost feels like this show was made with the expectation that that a fuckload of Halo fans and people were just going to watch it no matter what, because it's Halo. And they were hoping that it was going to like jump off immediately. And something about having a helmet wearing fighting, shooting badass is trendy right now. So they thought they were going to play off of the Mandalorian hype and keep that shit going. And they didn't do a good job there either. In fact, they made it seem like that was going to be the go, and then they fucked it to the wind in the first episode. So, yeah, I do want to talk spoilers for a little bit. I'm not going to talk about the show very much because, like I said, we've only gotten one episode. We've gotten 2 episodes, not all the way through the second episode, and I'm underwhelmed. And it does seem unfair to draw all of my judgments about a show off of the first 2 episodes, and it also seems unfair to draw any conclusions about this show based off of those two perspectives that I'm trying not to watch it from. I'm trying to look at it from an unbiased point of view, but even in an unbiased world, this show is kind of struggling for me.
Yeah, I played all the Halo games. I have an affinity for it. I don't think as deep an affinity for it as you or some other folks. But when I heard they were making the film, I got excited for it. They certainly had the look of Master Chief down, and that's not hard to do. You just build the suit to look like the game. So, I will say that, yeah, I agree, and I think you're certainly not the only person that was underwhelmed by the premiere episode. So much happened, and we talked about this last week when we talked about the God of War stuff coming out. When you announced that you're going to make a TV adaptation or film adaptation of a franchise with this much lore, with this much storytelling. I mean, it's not like you're just building a story around a silly shoot 'em up. There was a deep story in each of these games and a lot of lore to build off of. You always wonder, okay, if they're making a show, where's it going to start? And it just felt really messy. And I haven't played the games in a while, so maybe I was just missing stuff, but I was like, okay, who are these people? And whose side are they on? And why do they think like the Master Chief and his crew are like the bad guys, but then also the aliens are the bad guys? And the aliens kind of looked cool, and I remember them from the game, and they kind of had this ultra realistic look to them that mostly worked. seeing the Master Chief and his crew running around in the armor mostly worked, but then there were times where the CGI was just like, yeah, I'm sorry. You could tell me all day that they're super enhanced. That just looks like bad CGI. It doesn't look like, somebody actually running in that suit.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just the action set piece of the beginning that I think was supposed to, you might not understand everything that's going on, but at least you're going to be wowed by this action set piece. Like it wasn't filmed that great. I was like, I'm not really getting into it, and then it was just done. And then it starts getting into the politics of things. And while I love things about politics and I love a slow burn sci-fi show, I told you to watch The Expanse, and that is very much a slow burn, but it has great payoff. This was like, okay, but it's the pilot episode. You gotta give us a little more to run off of. So I'm trying not to judge it, and I haven't seen any of the second episode, but I was underwhelmed. And yeah, I think I knew once they officially cast Master Chief, I knew there was going to be a moment where the helmet came off. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. And
all right, so you're going into spoilers at this point. So,
well, I think we all knew that was going to happen, but yeah, I think it was.
Well, we didn't, because
we did when they announced him. Why would they announce an actor if they weren't going to take the helmet off?
Voice acting. He's not the most recognizable face.
Crow, because they Judge Dredd is a perfect example of a mainstream actor that got cast and he never took his helmet off. So my apologies.
Here's the big problem. Here's the big problem. The biggest part of the Halo games was Master Chief does not take his fucking helmet off.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a big part of the games. Is like, we don't know what he looks like. We want to, like, there's a part of you that wants to. And at the very end of the first game, where he's flying off in the ship and he's like, the camera's just kind of fading out and he takes his helmet off. You don't get to see his face. You don't even get to see the back of his head. You just see him start the motion of taking it off and then gone. Can't tell. You're like, fuck. All right. But that was part of his character. It was like, and it's different because from a game's perspective, especially when you were that age, you pictured yourself in that suit.
Yeah, that was the point.
You pictured yourself in that suit, being that badass and doing all that stuff. So not giving him a face made it more...
Made you connect with it
more. Made it a lot easier to connect to that character and to relate to that character. Because he was very stoic. Like he didn't showcase a huge amount of emotion other than pure badassery. And in this show, they have taken a very hard 180. They have unhelmeted him in the first episode. They have given him like a ridiculous amount of attempted humanity. I really don't think they've done a good job with it. To humanize this character and make
without reason too.
Without reason,
yes. Reason why he suddenly flips.
Like we were talking, you were talking about a slow burn. And I completely disagree, because there's no slow burning in here. They are pushing us right through the fucking threshold. They're not slow burning fucking anything, because in the first episode we learned that the Covenant are here. We learned that that Master Chief is already a legend. He's already being called the demon by the Covenant. So this isn't an origin story. Like he is already known amongst the Covenant. He is already known in legend amongst non-military colonists. Like he already, we learned also that the Halo rings exist. We have not seen one. And I'm going to avoid any spoilers from season 2, but specifically stuff around the Halo rings themselves has already been revealed in a way that you really don't learn until you are like the specific thing that you learn about the rings in this show, you don't learn about in the game until you're like pretty deep in there.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem, because they are rushing through something. Like you said, it's got very rich lore. And I know the comparison to God of War is even a little bit unfair, because Halo has Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo ODST, Halo Reach. I don't know if Halo Reach was also considered Halo 4 or not, but there's definitely also a Halo 5 out there. There's now a Halo Infinite, which are all continuing along those stories. And there are multiple novels and there's a few comics out there.
Yeah,
there is a rich, deep history around these characters, and they've gone in a direction that's making it kind of hard to. Well, first of all, like we've got a rough idea of where they are in the timeline, but the introduction of the Halo rings in the first episode, where you saw the ring in the fucking in the artifact as soon as he touched it, you're like, okay, so I mean, they are really making this show for Halo players who know everything about this shit already. Like, it's very clear that they've just pulled all the lore from it themselves, taken away pretty much any of the mystery, like immediately. And I'm going to tell you, in the first 2 episodes, like, they've told us too much. I know you haven't seen the episode 2 yet. I'm not going to say what they have said, but we know too much about what's going on at this point to really feel like we're on this journey or we're really finding anything out. And they've already had to throw in flashbacks. So it's like we're in this really uncomfortable position where
so did they really make it for Halo fans if the Halo fans aren't happy with it? Because
I don't feel like they made it specifically
like they didn't make it for people that had no idea what Halo was, but
you know what it feels like.
Seem happy with it.
You know what it feels like. It feels like
a fan film.
It feels like the remake of a classic that was remade by fans who already know everything about it and don't know how to tell and don't know how to retell the story in a good way.
They just like throwing stuff on the screen without an actual structure.
It's like this movie came out in like the 50s. Nobody knows it. Nobody remembers it or anything like that, but it's a classic. We've got to retell this story. And then they write, like, let's say that somebody was trying to redo Lord of the Rings, and not like Peter Jackson did, where they're like, all right, we're going to remake the story of the Lord of the Rings. And instead of doing 6 movies, 3 movies around one fucking book, and then 3 additional movies, and then absolutely nothing to cover the Silmarillion or anything like that. You've got a rich back history. You've got an established set of media. Let's say that somebody then comes out with like an hour and a half movie that covers the entire fucking story and takes it and I mean, just imagine that. Just imagine having the entire story of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all put together, all wrapped up in an hour and a half. I mean, like, I'll be generous and say even 2 hours, because these episodes are an hour
3
long
hours
each already.
Not long enough. Yeah.
3 hours, 6 hours wouldn't be enough.
Mm-hmm.
6 hours might be enough, but you'd be cutting out a lot of shit. And even in the 3 episode trilogy that Peter Jackson did, extended versions, there's still a lot of shit that he left out, and still a lot of shit that he had to change in order to adapt it properly. It took a lot of fucking work, and it did pay off, honestly. Like, I'm a fan of the book, I'm a fan of the movie. And in this case, it feels like the exact opposite. It feels like you're taking something that's got a very rich history, it's got a close place in a lot of people's hearts who are coming into an age where they're ready and have already been like giving the love of this franchise to the next generation. And it's like, this is this subset of artists, of creators, like attempt to kind of like we can't recreate this experience for people in a video game because that's been done. And the Halo series has already been redone as video games. Like, they got remasters. So you can play them on more modern settings and have it look a little bit cleaner. It's like, and then, but they couldn't do that. So like, they couldn't do it again. So like, hey, we're gonna make the Halo story, but wrong and bad, and then hope that we can polish it up by making the visuals look really good. Which, to their credit, I mean, the visuals, when it doesn't involve the CGI Spartan running around, look decent. But honestly, the thing that this reminded me of, and they might even be involved, I'm not sure, but there was a Halo fan film that came out
I remember
not a while back. It was thrown up on YouTube, and I think it was made almost to I think it was sponsored to kind of generate hype for another game that was going to be coming out, and it was really fucking good. It was really good, but it was a fan thing, and it was a matter of minutes long. It wasn't that big of a thing. But this felt like it felt like an updated version of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but they kind of like took away all of the glory of it. And the biggest issue that I'm gonna wrap out my thoughts with is just Master Chief's voice. He sounds like he's trying to do like a weak version of the fucking Christian Bale's Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like it. Like Master Chief
It's
has
a
a
little
very
jarring.
Master Chief has a very commanding voice in the games. Like,
Yeah.
like he's a stoic character. Don't get me wrong. Like he's got a little bit of lifelessness to him. Like very serious, stoic. I'm gonna say it again. He's a very stoic, stern person, and it's a powerful voice. Like he's putting some real energy into it. Like the voice actor was like very enunciated, but very strong, but a very strong sounding voice. But when you get a guy who's talking like this and like has that kind of like low tone, but like still kind of grunty at the same time, and then you throw in the helmet effect to it, it just sounds weird. It just sounds strange. And then he takes his helmet off and he looks like, I mean, like you can't take Master Chief's helmet off. You just can't do that. Like the mystery around who he is, the mystery around who his character is. Yes, some diehard Halo historians out there are gonna know what a rough idea of what Master Chief looked like as a child, because there's media specifically around that. But you don't know who he is. Like you don't want to put a face on it. The Mandalorian did it right. They didn't take his mask off until like the end of the series, and in a dire situation. This was not a dire situation. Trying to gain the trust of a kid whose life you saved, who's about to be executed. You don't like his dialogue in a scene in the second episode. And I'm not spoiling anything because this is how just terrible the fucking writing is. Quan, the woman who he rescues in the first episode, is asking him a bunch of questions. It was like, why didn't you kill me? I don't know. It's like, what's the thingy that you touched? I don't know. Like he answers I don't know to like pretty much everything she says. It's like, yeah, we don't fucking know either. And it's episode 2. Like, give us, and we don't believe that he would do this. Like, we have no reason to believe that he would do this. All because you had a flash of the family dog in your head. Fuck off. Like,
yeah,
it's taken away the glory of Master Chief, and I'm upset about it.
I like the actor that plays him. He is a good actor. He's got
good.
a long list of. I mean, ever since The Wire, I think is the first time I saw him. I like him. I don't think we needed to see his face, and I think they could have easily just done some sound effects on his voice when he's in the helmet. That might have helped with things. That might have helped with the voice transition. Because yeah, it's hard to hear a voice in a character that you've heard something else with for a long time. It's hard to get used to that. So they could have applied a little more sound effects while he's in the helmet to kind of help with that transition.
Yeah, Pablo Schreiber.
Yeah,
I've heard his stern voice. I've heard him in a commanding tone. Like, he can fucking do it.
Yeah,
like he could have done that voice. I don't know why
soldiers before, like in 13 Hours and some other stuff. He's a good actor. I like him.
For those who don't know who we're talking about, since we don't have like him up on screen, Pablo Schreiber was the porn stash guy from Orange is the New Black. I think that was his most recent facial appearance that like will really stick in your mind. Funnily enough, me and Cece are rewatching Law and Order SVU right now because she hadn't seen it. He makes an appearance. He makes several episodes of appearance in that show, and he's actually like the most watchable part of it for a while. There you go. Thank you.
This is him. So he's been around. He's got a long list of acting credits. He's certainly earned his keep. And I'm not saying he's bad for the role. I think they could have just transitioned him a little easier for it. But I was looking at the creators of this show, and like Kyle Killian, it's not Killian. He's done some stuff that I really do like. Like, he was a part of Fear Street Part 1, which in my mind was the best of the trilogy. He was the show creator for Awake, which is a show that I loved. I loved so much. It stars Jason Isaacs, and it was super high concept, and it was too high concept for folks, and they ended up canceling it. but he knows how to write complex storylines. And then the other guy, I don't know the other guy very well. Stephen Kane, what has he done? He did that last ship show that I thought looked bad, and American Dad and The Closer. So he's these guys have writing credits. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe it's just a slow start, a slow / messy start. It's a 9-episode season. Maybe it'll balance itself out. And I haven't seen the second episode, so I'm sure I feel the same way as you. But yeah, it was a messy start, and I think they relied too much on the visuals and not on the story. And the story is just convoluted as hell right now. And I don't understand who it's geared for. It's not geared for fans because it's just all over the place. It's not geared for people that don't know anything about Halo because it's so convoluted. It doesn't, like, I get it. You don't always have to dumb it down for people, but you gotta assist at some point. And it just felt a lot. And I get it. It isn't slow burn because it was just clipping along. But I was thinking maybe it's going to be a slow burn that we learn these things about the universe over time. I don't know why I said slow burn because it was just all over the place.
Honestly, the one thing that I will give it is that if they had done this without the Halo moniker, like if they had even if they had strayed far enough away from the premise to where you could call this like its own intellectual property, it's not Halo. These are super soldiers who are indoctrinated and are being controlled by an external force, specifically through AI, which they've already mentioned the Cortana program, so we know that that's the direction that they're going to end up going. Yeah. Like that could be a very interesting premise of like having a story where the main character is trying to break away from the control that he has been indoctrinated in his entire life. And especially in a world where we have a shitload of stories about people coming away from Scientology, breaking away from Jehovah's Witnesses, breaking out of like radical religions or just like difficult families and having to like kind of learn how to think for yourself. There's been a lot of media around that specifically. And also the fears that we all have around like what could happen when the world actually institutes AI and like what kind of dependence do we have on technology and all this shit. It was like, there's some interesting stories there. And it looks like that is the direction they're trying to go. Like it looks, I mean, it's very clear that John Spartan 117 is struggling with his own identity, not necessarily just with his humanity, but he's struggling with his own identity. And we don't really know a whole lot more than that. It feels like that's kind of the direction that they're going. It's not a direction that you would expect as a Halo fan watching a piece of Halo media. You're going in there looking for a UNSC versus Covenant war, or something to do with the Halo rings, the Flood, which I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to see. And then maybe a speckle of intergalactic space politics, which we have gotten. I feel like we're going to get all of those elements, but the core component of it is not there. And I swear to fuck, if they don't knock off the first person shooter camera angles with the HUD and all that shit, that's going to be what kills it. They should have learned from Doom. Doom tried this shit and did not work out. Like that is a lesson that needs to be like heeded very strongly. And it
made me wonder if they saw that scene and they're like, you remember the best part of that Doom movie? It was the first person shooter aspect. And it was not the best part of that movie. There was
Don't get me wrong. It was sheer fan jerking that they had his fucking beeping when his shield was down. And then the classic when his shield finally came back. Like it was really cool seeing energy swords. It was really cool seeing him fucking orbit drop, basically. Like it wasn't an orbit drop. He came in on a Pelican, but like it was really cool seeing Master Chief drop in and go kind of crazy. like you felt like that was going to be kind of like their Marvel moment, you know, where everybody in the crowd would have started fucking cheering, and it did feel kind of cool. They got that right, but then the action scene itself was kind of lackluster. And then he picks up the fucking chain, the Warthog chain gun, whose name I can't remember. So it's an M something. And then he starts using that, and he kills like 2 elites with it. You're like, oh, all right. Well, like there were no grunts running around, which I think was a horrible decision. That could have been hilarious to see some of those grunts running around.
Mm-hmm.
I really like I'm trying to think of positives. I really like that they did not skimp on the brutality at all, where the fucking elites are just rolling through and their weapons are just blasting people to pieces and like knocking limbs off. And the elites are also opening up these vaults where people are trying, like civilians, women and children, try to stay alive, and just mowing everybody down in there. Like this no mercy, good amount of blood and gore. Like good. Like it was an M-rated game. Like you should have these elements here.
It made you want them to be brutally killed, but then when the guys come to do the killing, it was like, oh, okay, but this is like not very fun to watch.
Yeah, the Spartans did not match the brutality, and that was really unfortunate.
And the camera work just was it's a messy start. I hope it balances out.
I can see some positive elements to this, and I can see a good direction that they could take this in. I have to disconnect my Halo player mindset. Sure. I have to take that out of the equation. I think if they can successfully give us like a good story, because like I said, I don't want to judge it 1 or 2 episodes in on as a whole. So I'm going to give it that shot. But as of right now, I'm underwhelmed. I would really like to talk about MoonKnight now.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move forward. It's not surprising to me that the Star Trek network that has been lackluster with Star Trek for a while is doing lackluster with another sci-fi property.
Well, let's just say my free trial with Paramount Plus is not looking too good to becoming like something that I actually pay for.
Yeah.
Might look at other alternatives.
On to another series premiere. The newest MCU series came out. The first episode came out. It was a full-fledged episode. It was like 40 minutes, something like that. It didn't feel too short. It didn't cover a lot of ground, but it covered enough ground. What did you think about the premiere episode of I was about to say Morbius, of MoonKnight?
I'm pretty happy.
Property. Yeah.
I'm pretty happy. So far, I really like the direction that they're going. MoonKnight was one of the first characters that really got me interested in the MCU. I remember reading like, God, I can't remember which comic line it was. It's one of the older ones though. It wasn't recent, because I would have read this in around 2008, 2009. And that was kind of what kicked it off, because I had a box of comics. Most of them weren't like a good majority of them weren't Marvel, but there was one MoonKnight there, and it looked really cool. I'm going through my Marvel Unlimited app, and I'm reading a bunch of the other ones just to kind of like get a refresher. And so far, I'm like, all right, cool. I can see a really cool series being built off of any of this stuff. But yeah, we jumped into the first episode. Me and Cece watched it together. She was pretty intrigued by it as well. She thought she recognized Ethan Hawke from something, and she could not remember for the life of her what she was, but she was like shocked that he was in this. And it was just kind of funny when she reacted to it. Because for some reason she thought he was connected to Minority Report, and I was like, well, I can see why, because that's kind of what his character is right now. But nope, that was Tom Cruise. So wrong player in general. But that is essentially the premise. But like an interesting take on it. I digged the glass in his sandals. I don't know why he's doing that, but fuck, man, that was kind of messed up.
Like, he's certainly playing that cult leader really well.
Yeah, he did a good job of it.
I love Ethan Hawke. He's a great actor, and he's definitely selling that.
Yeah. Fucking scary dude too. That's a fucked up power that he is channeling. I don't think it's necessarily him. I feel like it's the god who's doing it for him. But
It reminded me of what's that shitty X-Men movie that's about the Egyptian thing, Apocalypse. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, but done better. And I guess I have not, unlike you, have not read any of the Moon Knight comics, but his
I'm
character
having
is
to
Arthur.
refresh. It's
Yeah,
Harrow.
his character is Arthur Harrow, who is not this in the comics. In the comics, he's something else. From what I've heard, they kind of took a couple of different villains and combined them for the sake of the series. And, but yeah,
there's a lot of changes that are kind of happening so far. The main character who I am familiar with play as Moon Knight is Mark Spector. And it sounds like that's who the Mark is, who is actually, and like I remember him as the mercenary who, like I don't know if the Bushman villain is going to show up in this, but yeah, there was it was a different take, and then there was also Mr. Moon, who was kind of like known to the police as a almost detective like person. There's some changes that are going to have to happen in order to institute his story with everything that's going on. And so far, and like I said, like I read these in like 2009. Like I hold it close to my heart because this is what got me into the MCU, but I'm a little rusty. So I'm having to go back and read up on this stuff. But what I really like is that I don't think that it's going to do me too terrible much good as far as getting any deeper into this iteration of the character. Because like Marvel has been doing with several of their characters, they have been kind of taking the liberties that they need to, because while yes, this is a part of the greater MC universe, this is clearly a different branch of the multiverse that they're now tapping into, and I'm sure they're going to have a fucking blast dipping into for other projects. But yeah, I love the suit. The suit looks fucking awesome.
I saw it in the last like 5 frames of the episode.
Yeah. But it was really dope. I really, really like how Oscar Isaac is playing Steven's character so far. Like it's I mean, he's doing a really good job, and the show is doing a really good job of kind of illustrating this insomnia level dissociative. I mean, he's suffering from dissociative identity disorder, and I really like.
It's not really insomnia because he's trying to stay awake. Not if he goes to sleep, things happen. He's trying to stay awake.
Yeah, I'm trying to like. What's the narcoleptic? That's the
narcoleptic.
That's the
there you
go. I love that it's so far we're just really seeing Steven's perspective, like, and so that action scene with the van was really good. There's a lot of really cool elements to this. Like I said, I don't want to dip into like spoiler territory or anything like that, but so far, like or at least not right off the bat, I really liked this episode, how they're playing the mental aspect of it, and I really like I really think that Ethan Hawke is going to be like a really terrifying villain, because he's just like I don't know, I guess he's just a little bit more real. I know it's weird because his power, like his thing is a little bit more ethereal, more cosmic, while at the same time it still seems grounded, you know, like it's like it feels a little bit more I don't know. There's something about a Marvel villain who isn't like globally powerful and isn't like a world killer. Like there's, I don't know. It's
and then when you have an established actor like Ethan Hawke play that character, it adds that much more weight. He is a fantastic character actor, and he brought some weight to the role. I really appreciated that. I think one of the nice things about Moon Knight is, depending on what run you've read, from what I've heard, your recollection of the character could be completely different from someone else's recollection. It's not like Batman, who since 1939 has had some changes, but it's pretty much been the same character for the last 80 years. Moon Knight, they've done different takes on him, and because of his overall personality, the character almost allows them to do different iterations on him. So they're able to then adapt it and not have to worry about getting certain things right as long as they get other certain things right. So the chaos of the first episode, the confusion, I think really worked. I think it was. I heard somebody else say this, so this isn't my words, but I totally agree. I think this is the best premiere episode of a Marvel series yet.
I'd say so too. Yeah,
because WandaVision, it was great. It was short, and they gave you the next episode to get into it right away, so it wasn't really a premiere. Falcon and the Winter Soldier felt like a movie that was cut up, and so the premiere episode didn't really feel like a premiere. It just felt like it started and ended. Hawkeye was barely about Hawkeye for the first episode, so it didn't feel like a premiere episode of Hawkeye. This did feel like a structured premiere episode, and when it was done, you were like, "Oh my god, give me another episode!" And it sucked that I had to wait a week, but it was structured really well. It had just the right amount of pacing, the right amount of chaos, to where it's not totally overwhelming. You're getting that by the time it happens, like a couple times, you're like, okay, I understand what's going on here. And I would bet hard money that the second episode is almost the same events, but from Steven's point of view, and or however they decide to do it, or Mark's point of view, not Steven's point of view. But
that would actually be pretty sweet, really. Just kind of go through.
I'm excited about the show. I've heard it's only 6 episodes, and I've also heard that Oscar Isaac has been very vocal about not signing a long-term contract with the MCU, and he's been praised for that. So what that tells me is there might not be a second season of this, and if a second season is not confirmed, I would hope that means that they put everything they can into this season to tell a complete story. So that's what my hopes are. And I think
the reason I feel like that's actually really smart is because if he signs on and the draw for the return of this character is insanely huge, he actually has room to negotiate properly.
Oh yeah, from an actor's point of view, for sure.
And we're going to see a lot more MCU actors doing that, especially after the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit that she had and everything that she had to deal with there. And it's just like, yes, we're learning from I don't want to say the mistakes of others, but from the struggles of others in these franchises. But yes, I think that's actually also might be something that Marvel is a little bit more willing to do, because every single time somebody finds out that an actor has a contract with MCU after a show, it immediately takes away the splendor of wondering, okay, well, what's going to happen with this character? Like, well, they've got a deal for like 3 more movies. So
right.
Like we don't have really too much to worry about at that point. It's like, well, then now that's almost a spoiler in and of itself now. So
not to mention, this is the first MCU show, and it won't be the only one, because we're getting, is it Miss Marvel? Is that what the next one is?
I don't know if it's the next one, but it is one that's coming.
But that's coming up. This is the first MCU show that we've gotten that's not grounded in previous movies, where we've seen the characters before. We had so much of Loki, we had so much of Wanda and Vision and Winter Soldier and Falcon and Hawkeye. We had all of that to build up to the show. This is fresh territory, and we just talked about a premiere that we both agreed was pretty messy. This is a pretty darn solid premiere that dealt with what seems to be a pretty complex storyline, and I really feel like they nailed it. I've heard people disagree, but I really was intrigued by this, and I can't wait to see where it wasn't perfect. There was some CGI issues and stuff like that, but you could tell they put money into this show. You could tell that certain things were shot on location. Just comparing this to some of the latest stuff like Boba Fett, some of the latest stuff that Disney Plus has put out, this feels like there's a lot more money going into this show, and I appreciated that. It felt like a really strong premiere to me, and I can't say much more other than that.
Do you feel like this show has a better chance out of all the Disney Plus shows so far, that this one has a better chance to kind of like stand on, like to not necessarily be like a breakthrough hit, but like it has a better chance of doing well because it's in completely unfamiliar territory?
Yeah, I do. And we talked about that before because, we've had all these shows that are connected and kind of
Yeah.
they have that crutch to fall back on. And, Marvel's done a lot of safe bets, but they've also done a lot of risky things in the past, like with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. And I think just based on this first episode, it seems like they have the right crew behind this. Seems like they're putting the right amount of money behind it. And it could be a breakout hit, and it could be kind of a signal as to where the MCU goes from here as it starts getting away from those core Captain America, Iron Man type story types and goes into something a little more deeper and different like this.
Now, if you had a prediction for MCU established characters making an appearance in this show, who do you got your money on? Because I'm betting it'll be somebody who made an appearance in the Eternals. I'm thinking that will be
and we talked about what's his name, White Knight with the ebony blade, the dude from Game of Thrones, and we talked about. Is it Black Knight? I thought it was White Knight. And Blade. Both of those characters have appeared in MoonKnight comics, and we talked about this briefly before. I think when the first trailer for this came out, or maybe in Eternals. But I'll say to you what I said then. I hope not. This is a limited series. This is 6 episodes. It's complex enough as it is. I don't want cameos, man. I don't. There was no references to the MCU as far as I remember in the first episode. They didn't waste their time with that. They focused on this character, this villain, and the lore around this. And I'm perfectly fine with living in that space. If it's not a worldwide thing, because with every solo movie, every time there's a worldwide threat, you're like, well, then why didn't the Avengers come help out? Thor is literally fighting an alien ship in London or wherever that was. Why didn't Iron Man come help out or something like that? In Thor 2.
I do like references like that, because that was something that I liked about Shang-Chi is that they mentioned the snap, but they didn't dwell on it. They had Wong in there, but not as a key component of the story at that point. And it's and then having Trevor Slattery in there just made sense.
It just seems like half the time where there's a cameo, it either detracts from the story because it's
it's a make or break.
We're going to be launching this, and I hate it when we have to. Let's take 10 minutes away from the story you're invested in to tease you about another story that's coming. I'm already teased enough about Blade. I don't need him to show up in this unless he has a real reason to be there. And I really couldn't give a shit about the Black Knight or the Eternals in general because that show was lackluster as fuck. So if they don't show up in this... if they don't show up in this
episodes, they're going to get their own 2 episodes in the smack dab middle of the show.
Oh my god!
Nothing to do with Moon Knight.
Pull a Boba Fett.
Moon Knight doesn't even fucking show up in it. Maybe one of his side cronies does, and it's just all about. And it's just Kit Harington running around being sassy.
I love Kit Harington, but no. You know what I'm excited more about is less about cameos and more about Benson and Moorhead, the director duo that I absolutely love. They did Synchronic. They did The Endless. They did a couple other films that I really love. They are apparently involved in this. I interviewed them a year and a half ago for Synchronic, a week before they were announced as directors for a couple of these episodes. And I was like, no, I could have talked to them about this, but I love them. They're very creative. They're mostly indie stuff that they've written and directed on their own. This is kind of like their first big ticket thing. And they did not direct this episode, but it gets me excited. I've heard they're directing at least 2 episodes, so I can't wait to see what they bring to the show.
Well, and that's actually kind of the end of where I think we should probably jump on to the next set. So because we've only got 1 episode, I don't want to talk deep spoilers. I don't want to get into details yet.
Agreed.
So we'll let's go ahead and jump on. I think you have Morbius to.
Yeah, I won't get deep into this either because you haven't seen it, and I don't know if you have plans to see it.
I am seeing it this weekend. I am on my on-call rotation right now, so I can't go and sit in a theater without I cannot silence my phone. I cannot silence my phone, and calls are very frequent. You've probably heard my phone notifications go off a couple of times. When I'm on call, my phone has to be on because I could ditch it just at about any moment, which thankfully has not happened at this juncture. But yes, I will be seeing Morbius this weekend and getting kind of up to date, regardless of what you tell me here.
I'm not going to do spoilers.
I'm going to go and see this one, even if you make me feel like it's not worth going to see.
Okay. Well, then you might be surprised in me saying that it's worth going to see. Okay. I guest on the Victims and Villains podcast every so often. Me and Alan are the Marvel correspondents over there. So anytime something Marvel comes out, we do a review episode on it. So he went to see this on Thursday night. I went to see it on Thursday night. And then we were going to do a Sunday episode. We're just like, let's just talk about it tonight. This film was supposed to come out in July of 2020. It was done and ready to release in July of 2020. And it has been delayed due to COVID till now. So I want you to keep that in mind. This film was supposed to be the next Spider-Man related Sony film to drop after Venom 1 and before Venom 2. But somehow it got delayed so long that now we have 2 Venom films. We have another Spider-Man film, and then we had this film. So with that in mind, I would say the simplest way I could describe my feelings on this movie is that it is on par with Venom 1, and it is better than Venom 2. I have voiced my opinions on Venom. I know that is not high praise.
Not exactly glowing.
Because I don't like the Venom films. I don't like the Venom films. But this is Sony's universe. This is what happens when you let Sony make films and when Disney doesn't assist. I'm not saying that Disney should be over the shoulder every time, but I think this would help both companies if they work together. Because this could have been so much better than it was, but at the same time, it wasn't complete dog shit. I thought that Venom 2 was absolute shit. That movie was way too short. It clipped along way too short. We did not get enough time with the villain. Everything was in the trailer. I mean, it was literally the villain's in jail, the villain escapes, big battle with the villain, the end. There was no like middle battle. There was no conflict. It was just pop, 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 done. I can at least say that doesn't happen in this film. While it is a short film, and I don't know if Sony just has this thing of they let their directors make a film as long as they want, and then they come back and say, cut it down to 140 minutes or else. Because again, this film was clearly a longer film. Whether it's footage from the trailers that's not in the film, whether it's just the scenes and the people you're introduced to, this is clearly a severely cut down version of a longer film. I'm not saying that longer film would have been better, but there are pacing points in this film where you're just like, this is not how the film was supposed to go. But I'm not a hater of Jared Leto. So if I saw all these people like Jared Leto has been a part of now the worst Marvel movie and the worst DC movie, and those things were coming out before the film was even released. So if you're not a Jared Leto fan, this film isn't going to win you over on Jared Leto. But in terms of how he does for the role, I thought he was fine. The role is about a recluse scientist who becomes a vampire. That's not a stretch for Jared Leto. It's really not. He's done very similar roles. He's a weird, eccentric, pale dude. It's not a stretch for him. And he did just fine in the movie. I will give this movie props. There is a whole section of this film that was not in the trailers. And for a film to be delayed 2 years and a whole massive part of the film not dropped, I'm impressed, because I've seen so many films, recent films, that the Batman, for example, I knew I shouldn't have watched anything past the second trailer, and I did, and I knew the end of the movie. Like, I knew exactly where it was going to go. This film has been delayed for over 2 years, and there was a whole second half of this film that I did not know about, and I'm impressed by that. I'm not saying it's a great part of the film, but I'm still impressed by that. It's a decent movie. It is a fine, just fine matinee Marvel B film. And if they choose to build off this, I'll be interested to see where it goes. One other thing would be, okay, you've talked about the movie. What about all the stuff in the trailers that have to do with Spider-Man? Everything from the first trailer where we see him walking past a video game, or no, it was like Spider-Man 2 or old version of Spider-Man poster that said murderer crossed on it. What about all this Michael Keaton stuff you've been seeing in the trailers, all these ties to the Spider-Man films? It's not in the movie. None of that's in the movie. That is, in fact, the director himself has come out and said, I don't know why those were in the trailer. They were clearly things that they did back in 2020 to kind of tie this film to Far From Home. And then over the last 2 years, while it's been delayed and delayed and delayed, then they filmed a couple things for the trailers to make it seem like it was tied to Venom 2 and tied to No Way Home. I mean, this film was supposed to come out in January, literally weeks after No Way Home. And they brought Michael Keaton back in the late fall to film a couple things. So this film was done in 2020. They didn't bring him back to film vital scenes. They brought him back to film some stuff to make you think the movie was connected to No Way Home. It's not at all. There's some after credit stuff that makes no sense, but the film itself is not connected to Spider-Man. But now that we've had No Way Home, and they're talking about bringing Andrew Garfield back for his own movies, this could be something that they then throw in that direction. But in terms of the film itself, I thought it was all right. I did not walk out pissed that I spent $6 at a matinee for it, and I thought it was fine.
Well, I mean that's better than what I was expecting, because I mean anybody who looks at the reviews for this film are gonna be pretty downtrodden. They're gonna be pretty discouraged.
I didn't like Venom, but I keep on seeing people that loved Venom and hate this film. And I'm like, how? Because it is beat for beat Venom 1. Like it's beat for beat Venom 1 and other Spider-Man films. Like we'll talk in depth about this, but me and Alan said the same thing. There are scenes in this straight up ripped from other Spider-Man films, but for this character. And
like it's interesting what you said earlier, because we have the top cast here. If you search this, the top cast shows Jared Leto, and then literally the next name is Michael Keaton.
Yeah, and he is not in the movie. He's not in the movie.
That's fucked up. It's got a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, a 5.2 out of 10 on IMDb. 72% of Google users liked this movie. So these are all over the place.
Jared Leto's in this film. It's getting hate reviewed because Jared Leto's in this film. But you cannot tell me you liked. I mean, Venom took the world by storm. Like Venom 1 was this crazy monster hit. Like I don't understand how big that was. And I think had this come out the summer after Venom 1, it would have performed way better than it's performing now. And if people took their bias against Jared Leto out of the picture, it would perform way better than it is now, because it is on par with Venom 1. And again, I don't like Venom 1, but I will say this. There are clips in Venom that look really good. I don't like the story, but they did, for the most part, nail the look of Venom. And for the most part of this film, the special effects are great in Morbius. Like the change, the transformation, when Jared Leto's having a hard time trying to control himself, there were parts of this film I was like, all right, that looks really good. There's parts that don't look really good. But yeah, I was impressed that I didn't know the second half of this film. And growing up on Spider-Man, the animated series, and kind of remembering the Morbius episodes, I was like, how are they going to turn that into live action? And yeah, it was fine. It reminded me of other better films, but it wasn't a shit fest. And so, I'll be interested to see what you think.
Well, I will. Yeah, we're set to see it this weekend. We'll kind of have to the next episode of the N.A.P. We'll have to see where we go from there.
Cool. I want to wrap this up with one topic.
I will say that I can't fill too terrible much time with this. I know that we wanted to do like a breakdown of our I mean, you told me to come up with 5, and even that was kind of difficult for me because like I don't have a strong connection to Bruce Willis movies. And even a few of the ones that ended up on my list, I haven't seen in a while. So,
well, that's fine. We don't have to go too deep into it, but I'm sure you've heard the news that
very unfortunate, news.
It's unfortunate, but I think a lot of us saw it coming. We just didn't know how bad it was. But Bruce Willis has come out to say that he is suffering from. Is it aphasia? Is that how you pronounce it?
Dude, I had to look it up just to be sure that I was pronouncing it right, because I mean, we've been hearing so much buzz in Hollywood about alopecia. I was just like, I'm gonna say fucking alopecia. If I fuck this up, I'm gonna say alopecia.
He's bald, but I don't know that he suffers from alopecia.
Right. No. So Bruce Willis is, I believe it was his daughter that actually made the announcement. But she announced that he is suffering from aphasia. And aphasia is a language disorder caused by damage in a specific area of the brain that controls language expression and comprehension. Aphasia leaves a person unable to communicate effectively with others. Many people have aphasia as a result of a stroke, which it didn't sound like trauma. It didn't sound like that was the specific cause that they were thinking of, but he's also, I'm sure he's taken some shots to the head and all of his stunt work that he's done. People may experience social isolation or persistent repetition of words or actions, difficulty speaking or jumbled speech, difficulty building and drawing things, or the loss of the ability to write is also common. And at this point, this isn't curable. Like this isn't something that can, like, and even treatment doesn't give a whole lot of guarantees as far as what one will be able to do or won't be able to do while suffering from this disease. So this is really, really unfortunate stuff. And unfortunately, it has now led to the retirement of Bruce Willis. Yeah.
And there's a YouTube channel that I follow called Red Letter Media. They're really great. They do a lot of, I don't know if you've ever seen them. They do a lot of like retro reviews and in-depth like Star Trek reviews and everything. They released a couple of episodes over the last 2 months, kind of making fun of Bruce Willis. In the last 2 years, he's come out with 22 films. 22 films
in 2 years.
2020. Since 2020, he's been attached to 22.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And they've almost all exclusively been direct to DVD. And I mean, that's almost a film a month. Okay. And if you look at them, they all kind of look the same, but they're all slightly different. One's in space, one's, some of them have other actors. Like he did a movie with Megan Fox. He did a movie with, not Owen Wilson's brother. I can't remember his name. Luke Wilson. Anyway, so Red Letter Media kind of did this 2-episode deal where they watched a bunch of them and they broke them down. And one of the things that they brought up was that they noticed in several of these, and it wasn't part of the character, it looked like Bruce Willis had a skin-colored hearing aid in his ear. And the theory was that Bruce was doing like a day or two of work per film for a capped fee, and they were just feeding him the lines. Like he wasn't even memorizing the script. And at the point of them recording these videos, they did not know about his diagnosis. But now that we've heard about his diagnosis and that he's basically been churning out these films over the last 2 years to kind of, secure himself and his family going forward before he retires. And he's had this illness that would probably prevent him from memorizing lines and stuff like that. We've also had several directors that have come out and said they felt very uncomfortable with directing him in some of these films, and they have said we don't want to do it again because it felt like they were taking advantage of him. There's been some really interesting sound bites coming from people that have worked with him in the last 2 years, and it's kind of sad because I mean, who's going to say no to Bruce Willis, even if they know about this, and if he's doing this to kind of secure things for his family, it makes sense. And it was kind of funny to laugh about 2 months ago, but now that you know why, it's like, it sucks, but these films were all kind of shit. And it wasn't surprising that the directors were saying that they had to go back and cut multiple pages of dialogue from him because he just couldn't process it. So there's scenes where he's just like says one line, repeatedly to get through the scene. And now we kind of know why. And it's like, that kind of sucks.
It's kind of, it's difficult because obviously you don't want to downplay the struggle that this man is going through.
Right.
But honestly, there's a lot of media. I mean, it's a difficult thing, especially when it comes to somebody's mental capacity. Like the thing about aphasia, from what it sounds like, is that the person is still fully mentally like in his own mind, he's probably still feels fully capable, but like physically his brain is not letting him actually like communicate properly. And I can only imagine how trapped somebody must feel like that, to where the words are crystal up here, but then trying to actually like express them and communicate them is maddening. That's what it sounds like. Now I'm not a doctor, and I haven't done virtually any like understanding of it. It was like, and I know that recently there's a lot of people who are just now discovering that people have an inner monologue. First of all, I do have an inner monologue. I don't understand how somebody wouldn't have hear their own voice inside their head, like speaking. Like I hear it all the fucking time, and sometimes it's not very kind either. But, so as it turns out, there are 3 different types of aphasia. And again, it mentions them resulting from a stroke. I don't know if they were, if that was the actual cause. But essentially it's brain damage. And just think about that. It's like, this isn't something that you can just catch. It's not a communicable disease. This is something that can result from a stroke, which can happen out of fucking nowhere, or from just a severe brain injury. That's rough. That is a rough thing to deal with. And when, I mean, Bruce Willis isn't exactly in his prime. Even before this diagnosis, before maybe even the cause of something like this, he was putting out some films that were less than subpar in some cases, and then subpar in even fewer. And yes, I can understand Red Letter Media wanting to shit on those films, because first of all, shitting on Armageddon is one of the funnest things to do in the film world. I think it's probably safe to say that around the Armageddon side of things, he probably wasn't struggling with this disease at that point in time. It's a pretty old movie. But you don't.
Well, that's just the film. That's less about his.
Oh yeah, it's not even. That doesn't have anything to do with Bruce Willis's performance. I think his performance was like the best it could have been with the source material he was given.
Right.
But yeah, it's difficult to navigate around something like that, because you don't want to be insensitive while at the same time. No, I can understand where they were coming from. But yeah, after finding out what was really going on, even seeing the diagnosis, because I remember seeing ads for movies of his that I was just like, there's no fucking way I'm seeing that, because it just didn't look good. And you're just like, wow, he's just putting out crap right now. Like he's just throwing it in there. And we're like, well, he's getting old. He's probably just trying to do what he thought. He's just trying to secure himself. He's just working for some paychecks. And then you find out that it might not just be that. It might be that he is now being forced to leave an industry that he loves and has been in his whole fucking life, not by his choice.
And he's not that old. He's 67. There's people 20 years older than him that's still acting. So
yeah, so he certainly had some time. I mean, he's definitely gonna be playing some different characters, but he certainly would have had some time under normal, healthy circumstances, and now being forced out of an industry that he has been in for as long as he has, and has been an icon in for as long as he has. And then when I couple like the thought of that on top of my interpretation of aphasia, I imagine that it's probably torture no matter what, but I cannot imagine thinking that I can communicate effectively and then in the attempts realizing that it's not the case and not being like, man, can you imagine not having a proper way to communicate? Like if it's gonna affect him to this level, like he might not even be able to learn sign language. He might not be able to like physically write shit out. Like we don't know what extent the damage is at. And that is horrifying to me. Like,
well,
that is a living nightmare to me. So I have an immense amount of like, and I don't want to call it pity or sympathy or anything like that, but how could you not feel for the guy?
And when you're talking about nightmare, it does get worse. God, yeah. First of all, Red Letter Media, now in context, going back and looking, like some of the scenes that they showed, there was like a scene that he did with Luke Wilson, where Luke Wilson's just having this monologue. Like he would say like 4 or 5 sentences, look at Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis would say, yeah. And then Luke Wilson would have another 4 or 5 sentences, look at Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis would say, yeah. And that went through a whole scene where it was like it was like probably supposed to be a back and forth dialogue, but they just turned all of Bruce Willis's lines to yeah, and that's it, and just had Luke talk for about 5 minutes. And in a 5-minute scene of just that is super long. And they were like, why? Why is this happening? And now we kind of know. However, since this announcement has come out and we've seen things like these directors talk about things, there was an incident that has now come out that was apparently a gun-related incident and could have very much gone down the way of the Baldwin incident, where he had a gun in a scene. The gun was loaded with a blank, and he was supposed to say a certain line that would give his co-star the no to duck. He was waiting for that line to duck, and he couldn't remember the line, so he said something else, fired the gun, and the co-star did not duck. Thankfully, there wasn't a thing that happened, but the crew freaked out. And
those blanks are still fucking like people don't understand. Those blanks are still dangerous. It's still fucking explosion.
Very dangerous.
In the barrel
very dangerous, which is why they had this verbal cue that the other actor was waiting to hear. Like he was waiting to hear that verbal cue, and then he would get down, and the verbal cue didn't happen. And thank goodness nothing happened, but it very much could have. And that's come out since this, and that was probably instrumental in the family making this choice, because especially what happened with Baldwin and on that set, which is tragic. I'm sure Bruce Willis's family was like, holy shit, we definitely don't want that happening to Bruce's legacy. And it might be hard, but we're gonna call it. And it's sad. It is sad. He's got to he's has 144 acting credits to his name, and some of these are TV shows with tons of episodes. That is a hell of a career. We may be sad that it's ending probably way too soon, but it's still a legacy. It is an incredible legacy, and we don't have to get very deep into it.
I don't even think it's the timing. It's the manner in which it's ending.
Yeah, it sucks. Rough. It does suck. But
because at 67, if he was like, hey, I think I'm going to back away from acting, I'd be like, yeah, you're 67. Do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
right.
You're probably multi-millionaire.
Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood in his 90s still doing acting things,
Yeah, and how fucking hard is it to work on a film? It's like, why the fuck would you want to do that at 67?
Right.
Like, yeah, fucking enjoy yourself. Go fucking spend your life playing golf or getting fat watching TV. Like, you've had to look like an action star your entire fucking life. Yeah, do whatever the fuck you want. But then you find out that it's because he literally does not have a choice. You're like, fuck, man. That was the hardest part about it. Was because how hard would it be for anybody to relate to having something that is forcing you to stop doing something that you love, and you have no choice. There's like no third option. There's not a plan C that you can use to get around it. And like, not only is it going to stop you from doing the thing that you love the most, it's going to stop you from doing a lot of things that you really
now
enjoy.
Everybody knows about it too.
Yeah,
which is
extra difficult. The whole world fucking knows about it, and they're throwing their pity in your face. Which is, like, to be fair, that's what I'm doing right now. Thankfully, I'm not saying this directly to Bruce Willis, and I wouldn't do that.
Right.
I wouldn't want to like pity him like that. But yeah, you fucking feel for the guy. So like, and I don't like the term thoughts and prayers. One, I don't pray, but two, like, my thoughts aren't doing anything for anybody. But yeah, I mean, like,
I certainly feel for his family.
Yeah, sure. you feel for his family big time.
So I just wanted to end our podcast with I reached out to you and said, hey, come up with 5 films that you really like or that come to mind when you think of Bruce Willis, of Bruce Willis in his prime. And then I didn't want to just copy you. So I then came up with 5 other films that I really appreciate. And so these are not necessarily our top 5 or in the order of our top 5, but just
I couldn't do an order.
Yeah, and I didn't either. So these are the picks that we came up with. You certainly got some of the classics.
I really like that you put Lucky Number 11 in there. I was thinking about that one too.
Yeah, that's I think we all know about most of your picks. Your picks are some of the more awesome, bombastic ones of him for sure.
Mine were definitely a lot more mainstream because, like, I'm thinking about, like, I was introduced to Bruce Willis by my parents. The first movie of Bruce Willis's that I saw was actually Hudson Hawk. So that's why it ended up on my list. It's not a great movie, but it's kind of a dorky comedy that also, like, still has some, like, writing and structure issues and stuff like that. Like, it's a ridiculous movie. It's kind of one of those where you can, like, sit down and watch it with some alcohol and have a better time, which blows because I don't drink anymore. But and then The Fifth Element was always big in my family's house. We watched the shit out of that movie. I mean, how do you not? I mean, you got Bruce Willis, you got fucking Gary Oldman in there, you got Ian Holm, Mila Jovovich. Like, it was a great sci-fi film. And I'm trying to remember the fucking name of the director. Oh God.
Of what? Fifth Element?
Yeah.
It's he. You know,
you're gonna find it on Google before I can remember.
He did. He did Professional. He did Valerium. He's done all those things with his Luc Besson. Yeah. Luc Besson, who was definitely had better stuff in his earlier days, and have just kind of regurgitated the same things over and over again with his later stuff. But yeah.
I saw The Sixth Sense a long fucking time ago. And of course, yeah, that's a classic movie in general, not even classic Bruce Willis movie. Funnily enough, I didn't see Die Hard until, like, much later. Like, I was in my early 20s when I first saw Die Hard, because my parents didn't want me to watch, like, crazy violent films like that. I probably saw Die Hard, but in its, like, TV version where everything was, like, censored and all the curse words are, like, nixed out. And then, of course, Pulp Fiction I only saw within, like, the last 6 years or something like that, after, like, discovering my my affinity for Quentin Tarantino movies. Yeah, Bruce Willis was he was a big part of, like, my early movie watching ship.
Yeah, well, and I tried to come up with other ones that I remember. Mercury Rising is probably one of the first films that I remember of his. It's a very old film. It's not a great film, but I remember that poster, and I really wanted to see it. And it was something about, like, a kid broke, like, a government code, and in order to protect the code, they put out a hit on the kid, and he decided to protect the kid, and it was a good movie. It was a decent movie. Lucky Number 11. It's just this fun hitman film that has a cool twist in it. That is very stylistic. It's got a hell of a cast.
I wanted to put that one in there, but I felt like that wasn't a Bruce Willis movie. I felt like it was a movie that Bruce Willis just showed up in because he's in it so little, but his part is so, like, fucking badass.
Yeah, he's like Mr. White Cat,
Mr. Good Cat.
Good Cat, yeah.
Good Cat, and then Josh Hartnett plays the bad dog.
I liked it though. I liked it.
Yeah,
The
Stanley Tucci
Siege.
in there, fucking Morgan Freeman, Ben Kingsley, Lucy Liu. Like
Yeah,
there was a pretty stacked cast in there for that time.
it
So
was a hell of a good cast,
yeah,
and it was
definitely.
an
I definitely
underrated
recommend.
film.
Oh yeah,
It did.
definitely
I
watch
don't think
Lucky
it.
Number 11 if you get the chance.
Yeah, it didn't really blow up in theaters, but it's got a nice kind of cult following. After that, The Siege. It's this crazy good 1998 film that is eerie to watch now because it's about terrorist attacks in New York before 9/11, and basically martial law being enforced, and Bruce Willis is the dude that enforces it, and he's not the villain as much as the terrorists are the villain, but he kind of is because once he has control, he doesn't want to relinquish control. Hell of a good movie. Really, really liked it. Looper is just one of those sci-fi fantastic films. Ryan Johnson film, isn't it? Isn't Looper a Ryan Johnson film?
I'm
Sure
not.
it is.
I did not see Looper, so
You did not see Looper. Oh my
I did
gosh.
not see Looper.
It is a Ryan Johnson film. And I remember when Ryan Johnson was first announced to be Star Trek, I was like, oh, snap. Or not Star Trek, Star Wars. I was like, oh, snap. The director of Looper is going to direct Star Wars? Nope.
I don't know
Didn't
if
turn out that great.
I don't know. Okay, I was like, I don't know if I have that much hope for Looper if it was Ryan Johnson, honestly.
Here's the thing,
which isn't fair. It's not fair, but
it isn't fair.
He pissed me off so much with that movie.
Here's the thing: when Ryan Johnson writes and directs his own stuff, it's fantastic. Looper, Brick, Knives Out, they're all fantastic movies.
Knives Out really good.
Yeah, so take that talent and then put him in the confines of somebody else's work, and then say, not only are you going to write a Star Wars film with all of the restrictions of Star Wars and the lore of Star Wars and the rule of Star Wars, you're going to write the middle film of a trilogy. And then take someone like Kathleen Kennedy, who falsely says, hey, you have the freedom to do your own thing. Then you do. And lo and behold, everybody hates you for it. So I don't necessarily hate Ryan Johnson for that film. I hate Disney for that film. They set him up for failure.
They set him up for failure, but he could have just fucking said no.
He could have. I mean, he could. Yeah. He's not the first one to fall for that. Think of Chronicle director and Fan Four Stick and all that. Looper, on the other hand, is this awesome niche sci-fi film that's just really cool. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a younger Bruce Willis, and it's just cool.
I do like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I should give it a shot just based on that, honestly.
It's a weird, cool film. And then Unbreakable is by far my favorite Bruce Willis film of all time. Really, it is like the quintessential comic book film before comic book films were cool, and it was great. It spawned a trilogy that, while the finale wasn't
kind of a pseudo trilogy, though, right? Like it's not like a.
Well, it's a trilogy now, but I mean, you could watch it as a trilogy. I
also watch them independently, though, couldn't you? Because
you can also watch them. Well, you can't watch the third one independently because it's definitely the two combined. But
okay,
yeah, Glass is very much a sequel to Unbreakable.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I did like Unbreakable. It's a solid film. It's very grounded. It's M. Night Shyamalan at his best, and Bruce Willis at his best. I thought it was a hell of a film. And these were hard to come up with because the farther you look back, the more things you see him in. Like there's a movie called The Jackal that I really loved him in. He did a lot of great stuff. He's got a legacy to be proud of. I think.
I was totally gonna put Armageddon in here. I was like, yeah, it's not a great movie, but it's like a fucking like staple in the film world. Like that was a fucking full on Michael Bay film. Like I wanted to put Die Hard with a Vengeance on there, but I didn't want to have two Die Hard movies in my list. But Die Hard with a Vengeance. That one's with Samuel Jackson.
Okay,
and
that's a good film. I even like Die Hard 4 with the jet and the techno part of it, and what's his name from Boba Fett as the bad guy, Boba Fett and Mandalorian. The sheriff guy.
Yeah,
You know
Timothy
what I'm talking
Oliphant.
about? Timothy Oliphant. He's the villain. He's a great villain. I even like that one. I did not like Die Hard 5. Once you start
Die
getting into
Hard
the
5,
five,
Die Hard 5, Die Hard 2, even Die Hard 2 wasn't that great.
it
Like,
wasn't.
I mean, when you introduce the villain with a naked karate routine in a hotel room, you're like, that's weird. Like, it's fucked. But no, Die Hard with a Vengeance was
though,
like fucking. That was a good thrill ride. Like, I think that was like the first like major film for Sam Jackson.
I like the Have you ever seen the alternate ending to that?
I think it was actually like the original ending, and
Well, the
it was
original,
forced.
where
It
he
was
meets
forced
him
to
in
be
that.
an alternate ending. But yeah, the fucking game with the rocket launcher, he ends up blowing dude's head off.
It was so dark. I loved it. And
It was
people were like, "It's too
amazing.
dark," and I'm like, "It's not too dark. It's perfect."
Well,
I
it
love that.
totally destroys his ability to like be anything else, like because I think he's basically like not a cop anymore at that point or something.
Yeah.
Like like they had to save John's career so he could be a cop for future iterations of the show.
But yeah, I mean, 16 Blocks, Sin City, Tears of the Sun.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of
Tears
great stuff.
Was Tears of the Sun good? Because I never saw that one.
Yeah,
but
I like Tears of the Sun.
It shows up on my Netflix all the fucking time.
That was a really good one, and it was a hard hitting one. He did another war movie called Heart's War that wasn't as good, but it was still all right. But that one was really good. Tears of the Sun, I remember being like epic. It came out like around that time of Black Hawk Down, and people really loved those gritty military stories.
Right.
And that one was good. It was good. He did a lot of really great stuff. 12 Monkeys that he should be proud of. He's got a career. Whether you take the last 2 years in context, you can be impressed by his work ethic. And you could call it shit, or you could look at it in context and be like, all right, I understand it. But even if you take those 20-something films off the table, he still has still 120 other films that are sprinkled in with some great stuff in there. So
pretty sure he had a voice acting credit in a video game. I'm trying to
really?
That caught me off guard when I found out about it. Jump to. I could be wrong on this. But
video game for The Fifth Element, video game for Apocalypse.
No,
I
remember it surprising me when I read it the first time. It was an older game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Either way, I feel for his family. I hope he is in a good position to relax and enjoy life, and I hope he's proud of the legacy that he had, because he certainly has a hell of a legacy.
Yeah, no kidding. There's he has a credit for a short. It says Die Hard is back, playing John McClane again. I wonder what that's all about. And not to mention, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 films that are in post-production or completed and have not released yet. So he's still got stuff coming.
It's a lot. And I included that in that 22 films. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm sure maybe those films will get a little bump because they're his last films. I'm sure people will be sad that they're his last films, because if they're anything like his most recent films, it's probably going to be, not a lot. Hearing those directors about, you felt for him, because who doesn't get excited to have Bruce Willis cast in your movie? That's pretty fucking awesome. And then to hear these kind of young directors saying, hey, we were ready to go, and we get a call that says, hey, you need to severely reduce his lines. And hearing the director then having to call the screenwriter and say, hey, you need to cut at least 5 pages worth of lines. not 5 pages of the script, 5 pages worth of Bruce's lines. Does Bruce have a monologue that you're really proud of? You need to cut that from the film. He's going to be there in mostly, face only, not really a speaking role. That had to have been hard for these creators over the last 2 years.
That's brutal.
I feel for them just as much, because I'm sure to a point they knew the dollar amount that they were spending, this wasn't going to be an Oscar level Bruce Willis performance, but they were probably hoping they'd get a little more than they got, and they probably didn't know what he was suffering from, and that was probably just as unfair to them as it was unfair to everybody else. But it's a sucky situation on all ends, and yeah, it's kind of a bummer way to end this episode, but I wanted to at least talk about that and give him some props for his legacy.
Well, I mean, if anything, it's a stark reminder to enjoy the life that you have while you're having it. Because you never know.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen. So like, try and make the best out of what you got while you still got it. I'm sure like he did. He certainly, like Bruce Willis certainly did. And he became an icon. So, I mean, fucking shoot your shot, guys. Like shit. Like, that's yeah, I mean, I tried to make it a hopeful note. Yeah, that is kind of, we are on kind of a low note for ending this episode, but that is the end of our episode. I got nothing left unless you're hiding something, Josh.
We talked a good hour and 46 minutes. I think we covered some good
we
stuff.
Got a good one.
So.
Well, Nerf Herders, thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope you guys stick around for some future episodes. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can tell when we go live. Be a part of the conversation. Hit us up in those comments below. What was your favorite Bruce Willis movie? Let us know. Hit us up down in there. Like, if it's Armageddon, it's Armageddon. Let me know. I fucking cried the first time I saw that shit. Yeah. Fucking throw in Armageddon down.
I think I prefer Armageddon over Deep Impact. So at least it won out of the...
That's very true.
The asteroid films that came out in the same year. So it's got that.
I remember us doing an episode on best disaster movies and it ended up in there.
Yeah.
So it ended up in there. So I mean, like even Armageddon was still fucking made a fuck ton of money too. So, yeah, hit us up in those comments down below. Let us know what you guys thought. Hit the like button on this video if you liked it. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. You guys can't see how many people dislike this shit anyway. So fucking smash it. I don't give a shit. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit us up on social media. And until next time, take care of yourselves and have a good one.
See you later.
Peace.